Hello everyone. In this video we're going to continue to discuss order of operations, and I am going to introduce exponents and multiple pairs of parentheses. Okay, so let's get started. The first example that I'm going to give you is this particular problem. And if you remember, we discussed, like I said, some of you may have learned it as PEMDAS. Okay, another common acronym is GEMDAS, because the G stands for grouping terms, meaning that parentheses will not be the only grouping term that you have to do first. You could get brackets, braces, square roots, absolute values, and reduced fractions, fractions that need to be reduced. So that's why GEMDAS is also used, okay? But it's the same thing. And when you read this problem from left to right, you notice that we have parentheses to take care of. So when we do that, we need to do everything inside those parentheses. And then the operation is subtraction, so 9 minus 4 is 5. And then you read the problem left to right. The next thing that comes importance is the exponents. So we're going to do 5 squared. Remember, 5 squared does not equal 5 times 2. However, it does equal 5 times 5, which will give me 25. So remember that this is the base, okay, and the 2 is the exponent. So the exponent tells you the number of times you multiply the base itself, which is going to be 2 times, okay? So the problem now is simplified to 25. And you notice the parentheses are still there because we have to multiply it by the 3. Okay, so this reads 2 plus 3 times whatever's in the parentheses. So we're going to have to distribute. And when we do that, we're going to have 2 plus 75. And then our last step is to add, which will yield 77. And then that's your final answer. Okay, so the problem is pretty straightforward. If you follow the order of operations very carefully. Let's look at the next example. And this one, we have 8 squared minus 7 in bracket 32 minus 4 parentheses 3 squared plus 1 close bracket times negative 1 closed brace, okay? As you can see, we're using 3 sets of parentheses. So we have parentheses, right? And then we have brackets, which is the same, just a different shape. And then we have braces. All those have equal priority. So the best thing to do is when you have a problem like this with multiple sets of parentheses, they're more distinguishable if you use different shapes, so brackets and braces, so they stand out more. You don't have to do that, and you can use all of the same notation, but it's a little bit easier if the shape's a little bit different, and that's why they're used. So we want to work the inner parenthesis. And then if you realize that, this would be done first, okay? This is the first parenthesis that you would do. And okay, which is here. Let me go ahead and erase that because that doesn't look right. Okay, so this particular parenthesis we want to do first. Okay, and then this one, once we clear the parentheses, then we do everything inside the bracket, which would be second, and then everything in the braces would be done third. So you want to work from most inner set of parentheses to the outer. if that makes sense. And that's why I numbered them. Okay, so when we do 3 squared, 3 squared inside the parentheses is going to be ending up as 9 plus 1. Okay, and when you add those up, you're going to get 10. So the problem is simplified to this. Okay, 9 plus 1 is 10. Because you do 3 squared, okay? And remember, 3 squared equals 3 times 3, okay? Which is going to give you 9. And when you add the 1, you should get 10. We still keep the parentheses because it's going to be multiplied by the negative 4, okay? So we're going to do that now. All right, so I'm just copying the problem. Negative 4 times 10 is negative 40. And now I'm continuing to simplify inside the bracket because that's my second parenthesis, if you will. In this case, they're just a different shape. So everything in the brackets needs to be simplified. So we need to do 32 minus 40, which will give you okay. 32 minus 40 is negative 8. Okay, you just take the difference. 40 minus 32 is 8, and then keep the negative of the bigger number, which is the 40, so you keep it as negative 8. Okay, notice how everything in the brackets is shrinking. Okay, now I want to do everything inside the braces. Okay, so that's these little squiggly lines. So let's go ahead and clear the multiplication, because what I want to do here is I want to distribute. Why is this not working? We want to multiply that. Oops, so sorry. Okay, so again, I kind of make sure everything is legible here. Negative 7 times negative 8 is positive 56. Okay? And you notice that the negative 1 is still next to it. That indicates that I need to multiply these two now, because we need to clear those parentheses inside the braces. Okay? So now that simplifies to 8 squared. Now positive 56 times negative 1 is negative 56. And then I'm going to go ahead and simplify everything. Let's go ahead and do 8 squared. Remember, 8 squared is 8 times 8, which will yield 64. All right, so we have 2. And then in the braces, 64 minus 56. And we're going to sort of continue the problem here. So 2. Now 64 minus 56 is going to be 8. And again, anything next to a set of braces, brackets, or parentheses is multiplication. So when I do that, that's going to yield 16 as my final answer. Okay, so yeah, it took a little work, but we have to be patient and then eat the problem step by step. You start from the innermost set of parentheses and you work your way outward. That is the secret to these particular problems, and you should be able to get through them pretty easily if you are careful with your negative signs and things like that, and arithmetic, exponents. If you have all that under control, then you should be able to work through the problem pretty efficiently. So I hope that this example is really helpful. Okay, let's do another one. Let's do a couple more. Okay. All right. So here we have 15 divided by 5 minus 1. So here we have a fraction, so we're going to have to simplify the numerator and everything in the denominator. Now, both of them are independent from one another, so, For consistency, I'm just going to follow PEMDAS, okay? I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these parentheses, okay? So that's going to equal 2 to the 4th. A negative times a negative is a positive 8. Times 3. 15 divided by 5 minus 1. Okay? And I'm going to continue simplifying the numerator. And I'm going to go ahead and take care of these exponents. So remember, 2 to the 4th power does not equal 2 times 4, right? What it equals is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And that's going to be 16. Okay? So this is going to be simplified to 16 plus 8 times 3 over 15 divided by 5 minus 1. So if you want to follow the true order of operations, this is the process to do it. And then you can clear the multiplication, okay, in the numerator, okay? So let me write the problem here. All right, 8 times 3 is 24. We can go ahead and do 15 divided by 5, which is going to be 3 minus 1. We might as well just do that, okay? So we cleared all the multiplication and division, and then now we just go ahead and do this addition in the numerator. 16 plus 24 is 40. 3 minus 1 is 2. Now we're not done here. This is a fraction. This can be reduced, so please go ahead and continue. 40 divided by 2 is 20, and this is what you should put for your final solution. Simplify fractions all the way as much as possible, and that would be your final result. Okay, so that example wasn't too bad, a little bit more straightforward, okay? All right. So our last example for this video is we'll do this one, okay? And for this particular problem, I'm going to introduce absolute value, which is these lines that I'm drawing, okay? And if you remember from my previous video, if you watched it, I discussed that if you have any of these terms, parentheses, brackets, braces, square roots, absolute values, or reducing fractions, all 6 of those terms must be done first, okay? So any one of these must be done first. And absolute value is one of those. And I have 2 of them. I have one here, and I have one here. All right? So I'm going to start from the left, and I'm going to simplify everything in this first absolute value. Okay? So that's going to read 1 plus 3. Okay? Now, negative times a negative is a positive 8, and I was able to clear those parentheses inside that first absolute value. Here, inside the second absolute value, I can go ahead and do minus 5. Minus 5 squared, again, will give you minus 5 times minus 5, which we all know changes to a positive 25. So I'm going to replace that with a positive 25. And then now go ahead and take care of negative 4 squared. Be careful with this one because this is not, this is going to equal the negative and then the 4 times 4. Because we can't assume that there's parentheses around the negative 4. So we got to leave the negative on the outside. So square the number, which is 16, and then keep the negative. Okay? That's really important. Okay? So now we're left with negative 16 plus 18 plus 2. And then 3 plus 25, I think we can go ahead and just get that to 28. Okay? Going back to the negative 4 squared, let's say I had negative 4 in parentheses squared, then you can write negative 4 times negative 4, and that will give you a positive 16. Okay? Or if you see this, only the 4 in parentheses, then you keep the negative on the outside, square the number, and you're still going to get negative 16. So these two are kind of similar. Okay? It's going to yield the same type of answer. So just a little FYI, just to kind of keep in mind. When you see a negative integer squared with no parentheses, square the number like you normally would, and then attach the negative in your final answer. All right, so getting back to this, we need to do everything inside the, we need to add this up. So again, negative 16 plus 8 is going to give me minus 8 plus 2 times this absolute value of 28. Now, we need to do everything inside the absolute value. We need to take the absolute value of negative 8 and 28. So remember, okay, you can't multiply a number with something inside an absolute value without actually taking the absolute value first. So this is going to stay 3. Now, the absolute value of negative 8 is going to be 8. And I'm going to put parentheses there because I need to multiply it by the 3. Now I can multiply it by the 3. That's why I want to put parentheses there to remind me to do that. And same here, the absolute value of 28 is still 28. Because absolute value is the distance from 0. So negative 8 is 8 units away left of the 0. And then 28, positive 28 is 28 units to the right of 0. Okay, so now we can go ahead and distribute here and here. And then you're going to be left with 3 times 8 is 24, and 2 times 28 is 56. Now we add everything. This is going to give me 25 plus 56, which will yield 81 as my final answer. Okay? So I hope this video gave you some insight on how to handle absolute values, multiple sets of parentheses, along with exponents in there as well. Okay? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.